Good morning, my friends. It is day 2 of this clock nonsense, but I was up early this morning because SpaceX and NASA, was a joint mission, came down and landed successfully. Thank God. The team that was up there, um, you know, I don't know if you've been paying attention to the news, but the plan, so they say, is to colonize the moon so that they have a jump-off point so that they can go to Mars. And if you watch the channel, you know that I've done work in the past with NASA. I had a few grants for things. My cat is over here trying to eat my feet off. Will you stop it? He's busy. So I'm always interested in what NASA and SpaceX is doing, because SpaceX can do some things that the government can't do. So, that's whatever you think about Elon Musk. I think he's a genius. It's weird, but aren't we all? Anyway, so I was up for that. And I don't sleep much. I always say that I slept a lot in college, so I don't sleep a lot now. But I was doing some reading, got my grades in, thank God. Students are like, BRG, when you posted the grades? I'll get there. Hold your horses. We'll get there. So before I go to work, I start work at 8. I was doing some reading for work because I have to write a huge report today. So I thought I would pull some runes and get some energy for today. I'm going to go and meditate for a little bit before the day starts. But I thought, let's give Miss something to I can't even speak. Meditate about. Will you stop? He's like, I'm going to have no feet at the end of this. So, continuing down my rabbit hole of, boy, I have learned a lot about the mob. And I can honestly say, I don't know why anybody would get in that life. But I was thinking this, obviously this is not a comparison, but, that organized crime life isn't too different in principle than other kinds of organized lives. So, the Girl Scouts, you take oaths, you promise things, nobody follows the things that you promise. It's interesting. It really is. It's an interesting rabbit hole. I think it's just that I like the guy that I watch because he's so honest. And I think when you think of the mob or when you think of the mafia, you think about old guys. I don't know. My son made me watch all of the Godfather movies and all that stuff, and he made me watch The Irishman, which, honest to God, we had to watch it over 3 days because it was so freaking long. And I'm like, dude, I can't. Your mom cannot handle all that in one night because mom works and she's going to fall right to sleep. So we watched it over 3 nights, and it was mostly boring, honestly. But what I liked about it sort of was the premise of it. I liked the last 5 minutes of it, but the premise of it, and this isn't really a spoiler because this isn't really what the meat of it is about, but basically it's this old-timer guy, and he's in a nursing home, and there's a nurse taking care of him, and he's like, saying like, I did this, and I used to run with this guy, and they were all the big mafia names. And the nurse, who, like, I could have been that nurse, was like, oh, that's nice. And he's like, haven't you ever heard of Jimmy Hoffa? And she's like, no, I never have. And it just is kind of like this, the point of, like, it was such a big deal to the guys in the mob at the time, and, all these big names and all these people. But in the course of human history, like, she didn't know who those people were. Like, those people are only, like, famous to you. I'm 51 years old. I think John is a little bit older than me, maybe 53 or 54. And, like, these names mean something to him. I live an hour and 15 minutes from New York City. I've heard of the big ones that you hear of on TV or they've made movies about, but honestly, like, if you're not in that life, you don't know those people. But the same is true of any sort of thing, right? Like, if you're not into, the Wild West, right? You would never hear about, like, Billy the Kid or something like that. Like, you're into the things that you're into, but so the point of The Irishman is that, like, even though, like, all like the unions and all that stuff that the mob was involved in, like, it didn't, like, today, like, people don't even know who those people are. And you can see that sort of on a small scale. Like, my mom was really involved in the Scottish Society back in the day. And then, like, I moved away, and I was away for a long time. And so when I came back and I joined the Scottish Society, like, and I met the awesome people that I'm in the Scottish Society with, and I love them, and they're like my people, like, but none of they're all young and they're all my age. Like, none of them had heard of, like, my mother and Dorothy and the people who were big back in the day. So it's, that's just natural, but, like, I mean, on a much, much bigger scale, and the mafia, I think, I don't know how he keeps all those names straight. Honest to God. I love how he talks, though. He's got that definitely, like, New York accent. Um, I don't know. Like, it's interesting. It's interesting to me. I'm blown away by the whole thing. Like, I have no idea. I don't know about the ways of the world, and I'm kind of okay with that. But I think the bigger kind of cool thing about him is really that he turned his bus around. Like, they say, like, you can't leave the mob. Well, you can. It wasn't easy. He's that isn't easy to do that, and a few other guys have done it too. But and have a story to tell, and to really give good advice, and he's really trying to spread positivity and light. And I imagine that must be so hard because he has to give the same message, like, all the time, and, like, people want to know, like what did you do, and they want to know all the bad stuff, and he's really trying to focus on, like, that's who I was then, but here's who I am now. And isn't that the truth for all of us, right? Like, we are who we are now, and whatever transgressions were in our past, they certainly inform us and help us to be better people today. But I'm sure he doesn't want to have to relive that, all the bad stuff that he's done. And people ask really personal questions too. Like, I bet people ask him nonsensical questions. They asked me that I would tell them to pound sand. I mean, not that I'm not curious, right, about personal stuff, because I think the two times that he really, really had problems, I think women were involved both times. When he was young, and he went away for that, and then this whole thing that happened to him, that is what ended up getting him out of the mob, was started because of a girl that he was dating that was running around on him. With a made man, which apparently is a rule. Like, it's a rule. Like, when you get inducted, like I don't know, rule number one: don't mess with the guy's wife or girl, daughter or sister. I don't know. Like I said, 4 Italian guys I knew in high school, all of them were players. I can remember the one. He was always trying to go after me. They used to call me, if you know the Billy Joel song, the Virginia song, they used to call me the Virgin Mary. I didn't want to get pregnant. I think that really was it. My mom got married at 16, and I didn't want a life like that. I wanted to do stuff, and I have done stuff. I think I have everything out here. I was watching an interview with him too, and he was talking about, like, when he was away, like, he used the time to read and to study, and he got his GED, and then he was taking college courses, because back then, and now it's kind of starting up again, they had a prison program for college, and everybody's always critical about that. And I gotta say, like, I would much rather my tax money go into something like that than other crap that we pay for, because my first teaching job was in a prison, and the community college had lost their grant to offer the program. So in county prison in Pennsylvania, can't have a profit. So the prison warden was friends with my mom through politics, and he's like, hey, they knew I had just gotten my master's. He's like, can you, and I taught, as a TA. He's like, do you think she'd be willing to put together an education program for us? We have 1,000 hours because they can't make a profit in the commissary. I got paid $10 an hour. So I did that, and I'm glad. I mean, it made me a better teacher, because really you couldn't pull anything over on me after that. But, I like, county prison's different because you're either held over to go to state or you're getting out because you have some kind of stupid charge. Like, for women, it was prostitution mostly. Guys, it was, petty drug stuff. And, but it was a good use of their time. Like, they're sitting there doing nothing. Like, better for them to be making themselves better. And I would do the whole, like, here's how you balance your checkbook. Here's how you apply, because I'm old, so back then it was on paper, like paper applications. Here's how you fill out a job application. What kind of job do you think you're going to get with a prison record? And, all of them would be like, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that. And I think I've talked about this. My favorite student, you never say you have favorite students, but I did. His name was George. And he was a young kid, 18 maybe, just fresh-faced kid. It might have been Spanish or Colombian, or I don't know what he was. But anyway, so, I would say, like, what are you going to do when you get out? And he said, they used to call me Miss Beth. And he said, Miss Beth, I know you don't want to hear this, but I'm going right back into the lifestyle. This is just, this is just a occupational hazard. I make a lot of money selling drugs. And I'm like, well, don't you worry about little kids getting these drugs. He's like, I don't sell drugs to little kids. I sell drugs to adults. What they do with it's on them. To me, it's just business. And I mean, no, I didn't like that answer. And I told him, I said, well, back then we'll keep the light on, Motel 6. Like, well, we'll keep the light on for you, Georgie. I loved him because he was honest, right? He was honest. Like, other guys would blow smoke up my ass, but he was super, super honest. And, I really liked him. He was such an honest kid. And, so bright. He was so good. He was such a good student. And really, algebra is not hard if you break it down into drug terms. You have X amount of money, Joe has Y amount of money, and Sue owes you this amount of money. How much money do you need? Like you could make algebra into, things that they could understand, and they were really good at math. They could do it in their head. They didn't need calculators because they if you turned everything into money, they could figure it out. And I was brokenhearted. A few years later, I had moved on. I had become a professor, and I had read the paper, and I saw his picture, and he had killed somebody, and he was going up the line, life in prison. What a waste! Such a bright mind, but it's all about opportunity and resetting your compass, and you have to choose the path that you go on, and that's why I have infinite respect for John. He turned his bus around and got his compass out and said, I'm going somewhere else. I'm going to do something better. Anyway, I have rambled on for 13 minutes and haven't yet pulled a stone because I've been up for 4 hours already. Let's see, what do we got for today? I only have a few minutes to meditate before I start at 8. So I'm not going to pull cards because I have to go meditate real quick. Not real quick, I don't like to rush meditation. What do we got here? We have M. It's not really M. It's Ehwaz. And I'm going to just take a minute to think about what Spirit's saying to me, and I'll be right back. So Ehwaz means progress, trust, movement, transportation. It's similar to Rado, except Rados usually means physical travel. This usually means travel on a path. Progress, trust, and change is kind of what's coming up, and I have a lot of work to do today. So like I don't know if it has to do with that. I just came back from FMLA, so I did really prepare before I left, so that I wouldn't have a lot of work, and I don't have a lot of work, but I do have this huge report in higher ed called it's a Middle States review, and I serve as a reviewer for other schools, so I know what I look for when I'm reviewing other schools. But this is the accreditation that you have to have, which allows you to get financial aid. So it's a huge big deal. And I'm the writer for our team, so I have to kind of go through and and look at other notes. Group writing is hard for me because I don't exactly know what they were thinking about when they were writing. So then I have to kind of guess what it is they're writing. Like, it's easy. Like, my niece had me look at something for her, and it's like, all I have to do is look at her grammar, look at her mechanics, and make sure she formatted her Vita the right way. That's easy. But when you're trying to think through what other people are thinking and then recast it, in the voice and the tone that the piece needs to be in, it's a little bit harder. And some of the and this is a document about the whole college and how we operate. So there's parts of it that I don't actually understand because I don't operate in those spaces at the college. I do a very specific job. My job, I don't oversee faculty. That's why I'm an associate dean and not a full dean. And I am perfectly fine with that, to be honest. I like what I do. I like technology. I like the work I do. And so some of the things that are in this chapter that I'm writing are things I really know nothing about. So it reminds me when I was younger, when I was a younger professor, I used to do a lot of science writing, because it's very lucrative to write for doctors because they don't want to write, but they want to publish because they have to. So they'd be talking like all about stuff that I knew nothing about. My job was just to format it. So they would bullet it up, and then I would write about it and have to look up words, and I didn't even know how to spell half the shit. And when you write as a ghostwriter, like, that's the work that you do, but they pay you very well to do it. This is kind of like that, except that I kind of know what I'm talking about, but I kind of don't. But that's what my whole morning is this morning. And then I have to, hopefully it won't be as windy out because I need to take my pipes out and play a little bit because I have a big weekend coming up. It's the High Holy Weekend of Bagpiping. It's my favorite weekend of the year. It starts off with a coronation. They have a king and queen of the Allentown Parade. And this year it happens to be buddies of ours. So Kenny Walsh and his wife Sue, just super salt of the earth, good people, just great people. And they're the king and queen, so it's even more fun because it's people we know. But it starts off with this party, and we play everybody in, and then there are shenanigans, and then I have to hop. I gotta jump and go over to play at a few bars. And just a busy weekend, so I probably won't be on at all this weekend. And that's okay, because I need to get away from this computer. I've been in front of this computer for far too long. Anyway, so today, progress, trust, and change. I think I just need to trust that things are going to get done, and that careful evaluation, and then this is true, like in this document, what you're doing is you're looking at what it is you say as a college that you do, you find evidence that you do it, and then you say, hey, like, that we should do this because this isn't working, or we should do this more because this is working. And isn't that true in our lives too? Take a look, take inventory, take stock. What's going well? Where can you do better? What can you let go of that doesn't meet your highest good? You don't have to carry those burdens around forever and ever. Amen. You can carry on. So I'm wishing you all the best in light and love. Have an amazing day, and I'll catch you later. Bye-bye.